Yo, what's good, everyone? So, it's time for my third installment of the Apex assessment. So, this is the season 28 of Apex split 2 patch notes. And I got to read through it before I started recording, so I have a gist of everything that was added to it. And I think they have some interesting buffs and nerfs to characters. Really, mainly buffs, to be honest. I think it was missing some nerfs, if I'm going to be honest, but I'm gonna briefly go through everything that I saw here that I thought was pretty important. I'll mainly skip a lot of the wildcard stuff, like all these patch notes are easily accessible online and stuff like that. But just a brief overview of the stuff that actually affects the core game and not like wildcard, because I treat wildcard as Apex experimental ground for casual players to kind of try out and feel. So yeah, that whatever happens with wildcard, I'm not paying a lot of attention to. Um, I also play ranked a lot more than I do play wildcard. Um, so out of these things, it's called so it's still in season breach, but it's the aftershock event. In general, so like tomorrow is March 24th when the split ends. I don't like when the event starts like a week before or after the split starts. Like I like when Apex is able to sync up their events and the new skins and stuff with the new split. I would have rather them just extend the split like a week longer than to make it like a week apart. Because I don't even know, like when you're reading the patch notes, it's not clear that like what's it called? It's not clear that like what things are gonna change when. So is it gonna be the maps that change tomorrow, but not the guns or anything? Like so that part is a little bit confusing. But overall, I'm assuming that everything might come in week on March 31st, but if the maps change before then I guess we'll see tomorrow. Um, or I guess when I post this, it'll probably be today. Um, but yeah, let me hurry up. So they have an elite Hemlok, very interesting. So instead of the the elite gun is the Hemlok. Skins and stuff. Again, I don't really go over those that much. Like, if you have money and you want to indulge in skins, then do if it makes you happy. I don't have a ton of money, so I don't. So this one is pretty huge. They basically said for our audio systems that they're gonna make it so that the sounds to the left and right and behind you sound louder than they usually do, and they reduce the noise of like the window shattering for the hard light. So you gotta pay attention to that even more because you might not hear the audio of that, but at least you'll hear people that are dropping behind you or something like that. Because Apex has a really bad issue with audio where people will be directly behind you and sometimes you don't realize it. Um, and then for the big changes to Legends for Gibby, um, mainly they felt like Gibby was lagging behind, so they wanted to give it some buffs. They integrated certain things like well, a Gibby punch will deal double damage to hard light, which is like the windows, which is pretty cool. So Gibby has some value there. So like, yeah, if you're a reinforcing legend like a Watson and you reinforce it and it's like 1250, you could probably break it with like four punches or three punches instead of six punches like other legends would have to. So that's interesting. Gibby's a bigger character, so it makes sense that he's a little bit stronger. Um, and then when you run for a little bit, Gibby gets a bit of a speed boost. So I'm not sure if this is going to be like conduit speed boost or if it's going to be a little bit slower, but I like that they're trying to make Gibby feel less clunky because I feel for the average player, Gibby doesn't feel as fun because it feels clunky to use. Even though they did make a change like a while back where they gave like a lot of the slow animation characters a bit of like a medium animation speed. I don't even remember what season that was, but that made it feel a lot better. But this will only add to that. Um, and I couldn't tell based on the patch notes if the um Mad Maggie's passive with shotguns is just built into Gibraltar right now because it's like a yeah, he just has a lot of new stuff, and I'll get to the new stuff here. So the upgrades for level 2 is Thunderdome. So like I think this is especially good for pubs. Like you're fighting somebody, you throw that out your dome. If they come into your dome even by accident, like they're say an Octane was padding into and you throw a dome at your feet and he couldn't dodge it in time, then he just gets kind of stunned and takes 50 damage. That's insane. That's like free kills. So basically, you could play both sides of your bubble, but enemies can only play one side unless they want to tank 50 damage. So unless you're like quite literally 1 HP, like absolute one, it's really disadvantageous for them to push you because they just get stunned and die. Um, the healing dome is super interesting from a comp setting perspective because like being able to do double heals is kind of crazy. I saw some people saying that this destroys the use of Lifeline, but to my knowledge, Lifeline is the only one that doesn't have their tactical get destroyed by Mad Maggie. So there's gonna be either if you want to synergize it, or there's gonna be some use cases for Lifeline still. I think if you're specifically trying to avoid being like messed with in a heavy like Mad Maggie lobby. Um, the level 3 one where you get the triple ults, just like how you can get triple Sparrow ults with that perk, and it's just a little bit smaller. I think that's pretty cool. It's gonna be more useful on maps like Stormpoint, where you have like a lot of people that could be like in cover but like outside without a roof on them. But if you're fighting teams in like buildings and stuff like E District, it might not be as strong, in my opinion. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. Definitely be strong end game though, regardless, because the end games can't like end in the buildings of any building. Um, the Wraith buffs are super huge. Like she has um less of a tactical like weight now. Her cooldown is way lower, and they integrated her cooldown on her ultimate. That was one of the perks. So like the 90-second ult is just what the ult is now, which I think is a really nice, almost like a quality of life fix, as opposed to having to have a perk to get that. And then the animations are quicker. The phase dome is super interesting again from a team comp perspective because like you can start your ult and then for the next 30 seconds, even if you have a team inting you, all of you will be safe in her port kind of until like she places the port and then you can answer it. So if you have somebody that's knocked and somebody's trying to like nade you out to thirst the knock, it'll be really cool for like repositioning your team and getting a reset. And then the level 3 one where you get basically a double jump while you're in the void, and the void will you'll be like longer in the void now when you're using your ult. So like instead of it 4 seconds, 6 seconds, you'll get a lot more distance than you really think. Like that 2 seconds makes a huge difference. And being able to double jump over certain stuff is gonna be so crazy. Because you can like change elevations really easily. So I think especially like movement rates will get a lot of kick out of that, and just in general it's gonna be insane. And I think they also said that I think the Q like that phase Q might be a little bit faster too. Um, let me see. I'm trying to see if they highlight which. Um. Oh, okay. I see. So because they've reduced because they basically made the purple perk where you get like the 5 second like Q reduction now into the base kit, then this phase jumper just instantly like replaces that. So I think you still might have the like insta Q like perk that you can take, but we'll see. It also seems like they made the overall like speed of the Q faster too, so you might not even feel like you need it depending on how the animation looks. So we'll see that tomorrow. Then for Watson, they basically made it so her fences will repair your hard light metrics. So like all those windows that are breakable, they can repair it for you. And the fence damage is now 35, which seems pretty crazy. But then again, I think people have been trained to be paranoid of Watson because like you go through a Watson fence and you think that's just GG's if anybody's looking at you. So I think the 35 damage makes it a little bit more punishing, especially the Octanes that might be trying to stem through it. But we'll see. And then defense deployment time being lower is just a quality of life change in my opinion again. And the ultimate being able to reinforce hard light matches, I don't know how I feel about that or if it's gonna make a huge difference, but because it has like that cooldown, usually if somebody's breaching you, they won't wait that like 4 seconds or whatever it takes to reinforce it on its own. So I don't know. But if you have good fences up, it might be harder for them to push. So it's just gonna be like a skill check of whichever Watson you're going against. Um all right, let's see here. So the Hemlok. So basically, it doesn't have the burst or single fire modes. Now it's just purely automatic, slower fire rate. I think it's gonna play out like similar to Rampage, but with a slightly faster fire rate. It says 23 body damage and 32 headshot damage and an integrated silencer. So if anybody's like your off angle characters, if they're running like heavy, you might want to give them the Hemlok. So like if your Wraith is playing an off angle away from like say your crypto or your sparrow and your caustic or something. I'm thinking in a comp setting where you might have like a recon character, an anchor character, and then your entry frag person. But the entry fragger could maybe get like an off angle to like set up the fight, or while y'all engaging, like get behind them and then use the integrated silencer because they might get huge damage without them realizing where they're taking damage from right away. Um, and then the alternate fire mode of the brace charge, where you can have that kind of explosive, I think will be great and punishing for players that are like on the edge of the zone. They're hiding behind like one rock or a couple rocks of cover. Having that splash damage from a gun specifically and not just nades, I think will be pretty huge. Um, and I think it also destroys the windows in hard light really good. So yeah, if somebody like shoots to break your window and then a wraith is queuing in and double jumps in there, I could already see how some things can synergize in, and people might not be quite ready for it, especially like a Watson team. If you like breach it with just like one shot or a couple shots with your Hemlok, and then your wraith like jumps in and TPs you in to fight a team, that would be like super cool. Can match that up with a crypto too, like really really good synergy I could see. So definitely some stuff. The repeater, I don't know how I feel about increasing the base damage. I feel like the repeater, yes, people weren't using it, but like how the repeater was before, I don't want to say like super duper oppressive because people are using the G7 more than the repeater a lot of times, but I think that was just because all the light weapons felt amazing. So I don't know if this is going to lean into more of a heavy ammo meta because I think they also are buffing the Prowler too. Yeah, they buffed the Prowler a little bit. So, like, the Repeater being pretty decent, the Hemlok being insane, and the Prowler, like, we'll see. Um, when I read this, I was a little bit disappointed with the RE just being like placed on the ground as an energy. I don't mind it being just in an energy rotation because I feel like it kind of feels like Apex has a bit of a balance when they have all these different guns, like a pistol form of each different like type of round. So like the wingman is a pistol form of the sniper. The what's it called? The P2020s is a pistol form of the light ammo. The Re 45 is a pistol form of the energy ammo. So like all of that makes a lot of sense. And the wingman used to be heavy ammo, so I don't know if you're keeping the wingman as a sniper pistol. If you wanted to even it out, it might be a good idea for Apex to actually have space to introduce a new type of gun. You can even like introduce like a new heavy ammo like pistol. Because you have the Mozams, which is the shotgun, the Wingman, which is a sniper, the Re, which is the energy, and the P2020, which is the light. So heavy, I think, is the only one that's missing one. If I'm not mistaken. Um, so yeah, that'll be cool in my opinion. Um, and then they buffed the P2020s, increased the mag size, and decreased the hammer points. I don't think that was the issue with the 20s. I think the issue with the 20s is accuracy. It feels extremely RNG to use, and also like with certain characters like Octane where you have to like stim to use it, or like I'm imagining it's the same thing with like Ballistic or Maggie Q. Like when you're using certain tacticals, it puts away one of the P20s, so the ammo capacity is not enough with unless you're having the akimbo. So you can't use your tactical and also shoot your gun the way how you want to. So that might be something that's worth looking into or fixing. They improved the reload speed of the Eva 8. Um, Kind of a lateral move. I'm not sure if it's gonna do a lot of stuff in high level play where it's like if you're taking 8 Eva shots and then reloading, you're probably dead anyway. So um, we'll see. But yeah, the Prowler update pretty cool. Burst fire delay reduced and recoil improvements. This is just gonna be something that you have to look at. They said they moved Elysium to around Rift, so we'll just see how it looks there. And then ranked is going to be Olympus, Stormpoint, and World's Edge. I'm fine with Stormpoint and World's Edge. Olympus is always variable in ranked, especially with them not having the PLY dropships until you get to Diamond ranked. So we'll see. And they didn't say any updates about those type of stuff. So I don't even know if they're going to do anything about the ranked or make it down to platinum, because I know a lot of platinum players wanted to have POI dropships too, apparently, according to like what I was seeing online, like whether it was like Reddit or Twitter or whatever. So we'll see. I don't think gold and below cares that much either way, but I know some of the higher level players definitely did care a bit. Um, and yeah, I'd say plat is like slightly above average. So, or I guess above average. I guess gold should be average in theory. So above average. Um, Quality of life. This is a skin related thing, but this one actually makes a big difference. Being able to double jump off an octane pad and hit a bat, I mean, is really huge, because usually I take an octane pad, and if I had to heal, I'd only pop a cell. So if I got ripped for 70, but I healed for like 25, then I would still be at a deficit. But if I can get ripped for that much and then also um pop a bat, so like say like I'm like say a team is chasing me and I put a pad down and the pad instantly inflates because of octane buff now, and then I just like pop up in the air, right? If I pop a bat immediately, like I'm gonna be able to survive that a lot of times if I have a double jump. So I think that's gonna be really cool, because I hated having to like try to bat and then I realized mid air that I'm gonna hit the ground before I get the bat off, so I have to double jump and cancel my bat and then try to heal when I land. Because by that point, the team can already catch up to you and it's too late. So really, really huge quality of life change. Um, and then they said they removed the extra hit markers on the double tap, which is cool. I like that. So it's gonna be a little bit easier to see. Um, I didn't know this was an issue, and then they seem like they did a lot of stuff with the bots. I heard a rumor that they're gonna make it so that you can switch um bots to like look like different Apex characters, but this might be just a step in that direction. Looks like you could do a lot more in the firing range and make them way more realistic into how you would actually be fighting people, so you can get more realistic training and not have to use outside resources to like get like bot simulation in your aiming. Um and yeah, audio, I'm just glad that they're fixing certain stuff with the audio. And then people behind you should be easier to hear. And then they made some like engine changes, which should be cool or whatever. I would say like overall, this last season, this last split has felt one of the healthiest the gun meta has ever felt. Like having marksmen being like reduced in terms of their effectiveness, but still not being like the worst guns in the game. And having all these weapons being viable close range between like the Re 45 and the Mosems and the R9 and the alternator, and the car was in the care package, so the car was really good as well. It probably didn't feel terrible, but it was definitely on the lowest of the ends of the SMGs that you'd want to pick up and know that you can easily get a kill, because sometimes the burst mechanic is awkward for certain players to fight with. But like the wingman was really good. Like it's just like everything just felt really, really good. So I hope the 30-30 getting that base like increase doesn't mess that feeling up too much. But yeah, the snipers feel really viable. Having the graffiti hop up on the longbow and the Mosems and the wingman made them all super viable. And yeah, I'm just interested to see like what it looks like tomorrow with everything. The biggest thing that I would label as a disappointment really in this patch is purely just not seeing anything about Alter being done. I think Octane's in a fine place, but I really do think that Alter is the one character in terms of nerfing that can use some area of work. Um, and yeah, I would. I'm gonna elaborate on that in a separate video. But this is the main thing. I think this patch is like a 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I'm really happy about it. I think Gibraltar beans are gonna be eating good. Having a Fuse prestige skin is cool. If you really like Fuse. I saw his Watson posted like the 9 to 5 dads are eating good now that Fuse has a prestige skin. So that's super funny. Um I don't think there's a lot of like just awful, awful, terrible characters right now. Especially with the Gibby buff. I'm trying to think if there's anyone that really needs work, because Bloodhound got work. Um, I wish that they made Mad Maggie, and this is selfish because I play Mad Maggie. I wish that she had a big drill integrated into her base kit, so her drill felt a little bit more consistent. Because a lot of times I prefer getting twin drills instead of having big drill. but then the twin drills don't always hit the target. And I wish the Maggie Ball didn't do self damage or flashbang you. Certain things that does like self damage to you in the game can be like really frustrating. So that's pretty much it. But I hope this was a good overview of everything. I think Apex is in a pretty decent place right now. If they are able to fix Alter in the way that I think they should, which I'm going to put in my next video, then I think it would be really great. So we'll see. But I hope y'all have a good one. Peace.